The moment Sarah Chen realized she was invisible, she was standing in the middle of Grand Central Terminal, with tears streaming down her face, and not a single person stopped to ask if she was okay. Hundreds of commuters flowed around her like water around a stone, their eyes glazed with the particular blindness that comes from seeing the same faces, the same problems, the same world every single day. She had just lost her job, her apartment lease was up in 30 days, and her mother's medical bills were piling up. Like autumn leaves, she had no rake to gather. But what broke her in that moment wasn't the weight of her problems. It was the suffocating realization that she could disappear entirely, and the world would simply adjust its current and move on. That's when she saw the girl. She was maybe 7 years old, sitting cross-legged against one of the terminal's massive columns. Her clothes too thin for November in New York, her sneakers held together with duct tape that had seen better days. The girl wasn't crying or calling out for help. She was drawing. With a stub of chalk on the dirty marble floor, she was creating an elaborate garden full of flowers that didn't exist in any botany textbook, creatures that lived only in imagination, and in the center of it all, a single word: hope. Sarah stopped walking. For the first time in months, she actually saw someone. "That's beautiful," Sarah said, crouching down despite her business suit and the grime on the floor. The girl looked up with eyes that held both wisdom and wonder. "Thank you. I'm making it for people who forgot how to see colors." Something in Sarah's chest cracked open. "I think I might be one of those people." "That's okay," the girl said simply. "Sometimes we all need reminding." She held out the chalk. "Want to help?" For 20 minutes, Sarah forgot about her unemployment, her eviction notice, her mother's hospital bills. She drew clumsy flowers next to the girl's masterpieces and laughed when she couldn't get the petals right. Commuters still flowed around them, but now Sarah saw them differently. The tired nurse heading home after a double shift. The businessman whose phone call suggested a struggling marriage. The teenager whose slumped shoulders spoke of bullying or heartbreak or both. When Sarah finally stood to leave, she pressed $40 into the girl's small hand. Money she absolutely could not afford to give away. For dinner, and maybe some real art supplies. The girl's eyes went wide. "That's too much." "It's not nearly enough," Sarah replied. "What's your name?" "Elena, what's yours?" "Sarah, will you be here tomorrow?" Elena's face fell slightly. "We move around. My mom and me. Looking for work." Sarah made a decision that would change everything. "Wait here. Just 15 minutes, please." She actually ran in her heels through Grand Central, out onto 42nd Street, into the art supply store she passed every day but never entered. She bought sketchbooks, colored pencils, proper chalk, and watercolors. She didn't care that it maxed out her credit card. Some things mattered more than sensible financial planning. When she returned, breathless, Elena was still there, carefully preserving her chalk garden by directing foot traffic around it. The girl's face lit up like Times Square when she saw the supplies. "Now you can make art anywhere," Sarah said. "Don't let anyone tell you you're not an artist, okay? You are. You reminded me how to see." That night, in her tiny apartment that would soon belong to someone else, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about Elena. She pulled out her laptop and began typing. She wrote about a little girl with magic chalk who reminded the world how to see. She wrote until dawn, until her fingers ached, until she had created something that mattered more than any corporate report she'd ever generated. 3 days later, Sarah posted her story on a free storytelling website, expecting nothing. She titled it simply, "The Girl Who Drew Hope." What happened next was what Elena might have called magic. The story went viral. Not internet-famous viral, but something deeper. It was shared in teachers' lounges and hospital break rooms and military bases overseas. Parents read it to their children at bedtime. Social workers printed it out for their offices. Within a week, Sarah's inbox was flooded with messages from people who had been reminded, like her, how to see. But the message that changed everything came from Amanda Okoye, a children's book publisher in Boston. "I want to publish your story. I want Elena's art on the cover. And I want to use the profits to fund a program providing art, supplies to homeless children across America. Are you in?" Sarah's hands shook as she typed her response. But first, she had to find Elena. She spent 2 weeks returning to Grand Central every day at different times. searching for a little girl with magic in her fingertips. She asked the transit workers, the coffee vendors, the regular commuters. She felt crazy, desperate, like someone searching for a fairy tale. On the 15th day, when she'd almost given up, she found them. Elena and her mother, Rosa, sleeping in the 24-hour waiting area, using their backpacks as pillows. Sarah's heart broke and mended simultaneously. "Elena," she whispered. The girl's eyes opened, recognized Sarah, and filled with joy. "You came back! I was drawing you in my mind." Rosa woke with the startled alertness of someone for whom sleep could never be fully trusted. Sarah saw her tense, saw her move protectively toward her daughter, saw the exhaustion etched in every line of her face. "I'm sorry," Sarah said quickly. I'm a friend. Your daughter drew something beautiful a couple weeks ago, and it changed my life. I wrote about it, and now someone wants to turn it into a book. With Elena's art, and I think—" She swallowed hard. "I think it could change your lives, too." Rosa's expression shifted from suspicion to disbelief to something Sarah couldn't quite name. "What do you mean?" Sarah sat down on the cold floor with them and explained everything. The viral story, the publisher, the advance payment, the scholarship fund. She showed them the emails on her phone, proof that this wasn't a scam or a dream. Rosa started crying. Not delicate tears, but great shuddering sobs that came from a place of exhaustion, so deep it had its own gravity. Elena wrapped her small arms around her mother, and Sarah wrapped her arms around them both, and in the middle of Grand Central Terminal, three invisible people saw each other completely. The book published 6 months later. Elena's artwork graced the cover, a chalk garden full of impossible, flowers, and the single word, hope blazing like a sunrise. Sarah's story filled the pages, telling the truth about invisibility and recognition, about loss and rediscovery, about how sometimes the people who have the least to give offer the most valuable gifts. The book didn't hit the bestseller lists, but it did something better. It created a movement. The Elena's Hope program distributed art supplies to homeless children in all 50 states. Schools started chalk gardens, where kids could create temporary beauty to remind adults how to see. Parents began really looking at their children. Commuters started noticing each other. Sarah got her own apartment back, a better one, with an extra room that became her office. Rosa got a job at the publisher's office, managing the Elena's Hope program. Elena got a scholarship fund that would take her through college. And more importantly, she got to keep being an artist. But the real magic happened in smaller moments. A businessman stopped to help a woman who'd dropped her groceries. A teenager complimented a classmate's drawings. A nurse received an unexpected thank you that made her double shift bearable. Thousands of tiny acts of recognition that rippled out like Elena's chalk drawings, remaking the world one small interaction at a time. 3 years later, Sarah stood in Grand Central Terminal again. This time she wasn't invisible and she wasn't crying. She was reading to a crowd of children sitting in a semicircle around her. Elena beside her with a fresh piece of chalk, drawing as Sarah spoke. "Once upon a time," Sarah read, "there was a girl who drew hope when the world had forgotten what it looked like." Elena looked up from her drawing and grinned. "Tell them the truth," she said. "Tell them it's a true story." Sarah smiled back. "It is true, all of it. And it started the day I stopped being invisible, because someone saw me." The children applauded. Their parents wiped their eyes. And somewhere in the crowd, someone else who felt invisible stopped, looked around, and really saw the world for the first time in years. That night, Sarah added a new page to her journal. She wrote about Elena's latest chalk garden, about Rosa's promotion, about the letters they received from families who'd been helped by the program. But mostly she wrote about the profound truth she'd learned that November Day 3 years ago. We are all invisible until someone chooses to see us, and we are all artists, capable of creating hope. If only we remember to look down at the ground beneath our feet and recognize the magic, waiting to be drawn. Elena's chalk garden in Grand Central Terminal was cleaned away by maintenance crews years ago, as all chalk art must be. But the hope it planted grew roots in concrete and steel, in hearts and minds, in the millions of tiny moments when people chose recognition over invisibility. And it all started with a woman who forgot how to see colors, and a little girl who remembered how to draw them.